world, He reigns in our hearts. My husband and to my daughter who are here as well, I love you all dearly, and I'm so glad and grateful that you are here with me this day. Let us pray.
All right.
Oh, most merciful God, we thank you. We thank you for the opportunity. We thank you for the ups and downs, and we thank you that it is not by our own might that we are here today, but it is by you, and it is through you, and it is with you right now, oh God, that I ask that you help and assist me to bring the word that I believe you have given me for your people this day. God, bless each and every heart, each and every mind, each and every body that is present. Bless each and every individual household. Bless each and every person as we go up and down, in and out throughout this day, throughout this world, throughout our week. Be with us that some word may fall fresh upon them, that they may be lifted, and that we too may give you the honor and the glory.
Yes.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. I've said my thank you, but I'm going to say them again. Thank you, Pastor. Thank you, friend. I really appreciate it. I hope you all are treating him well, and I hope you all, that I hope he is treating you well as also. Yes, he said a lot of true things in his introduction of me as the speaker today. So he and I have definitely evolved into a wonderful friendship, and I am grateful to have him. As a friend.
Amen.
I am coming from, I was given the word dignity, and I instantly thought it was a mouthful, a thoughtful, it was just overwhelming. I just didn't know how I could address this topic. There was no specific scripture, no specific text. And then I looked to see that everybody else had this strong word that meant they had to do so much as well, self-confidence. And I said, well, everybody else is going to have just as hard a time as I am. So I just was going to lean to God completely during this time. I am coming from 2 Kings, the 4th chapter. 2 Kings, the 4th chapter. And I will be reading from the New International Version, 1 through 7. It reads, the wife of a man from the company of the prophets cried out to Elisha, your servant, my husband, is dead. And you know that he revered the Lord. But now his creditor is coming to take my 2 sons as his slaves. Elisha replied to her, how can I help you? Tell me, what do you have in your house? Your servant has nothing there at all, she said, except a little oil. Elisha said, go around and ask all your neighbors for empty jars. Don't ask for just a few. Then go inside and shut the door behind you and your sons. Pour oil into all the jars, and as each is filled, put it to one side. She left him and afterwards shut the door behind her and her sons. They brought the jars to her and she kept pouring. When all the jars were full, she said to her son, bring me another one. But he replied, there is not a jar left. Then the oil stopped flowing. She went and told the man of God, and he said, go sell the oil and pay your debts. You and your son can live on what is left.
All right.
Today's sermon title, Household Materials. Amen. I am not just a preacher, a mother, a wife. I also have the privilege of being a school teacher. And right now, my students are currently working on their science projects. And this has been a fun time. They are researching, they are constantly looking up these experiments that they want to do, and I constantly am having to remind them that that is not a science project. Making a rubber egg is not a science project. sure, placing an egg in vinegar over several days changes the consistency and the substance of what is inside. But where is the control group? Where is the comparison? I have to remind them. Where is the scientific question in all of this? I encourage my students as much as I possibly can to not make elaborate projects. Things that will have your parents driving all over the city looking for some specific thing because it's not at Jewel, it's not at Walgreens, it's not at our local store. And as I remind them about what it is that they need to do, I encourage them to look for something that they can use within their home. I say, open your shelves. Look in the refrigerator. There's one project that specifically talked about, is popcorn best in the shelf or in the refrigerator? Instantly, my student said, the refrigerator. My other said, no, the shelf. And so we had a good dialogue, a good conversation about what this science project could be. I kept telling them, it doesn't have to be grand and big. It just has to be specific. And so when I look here in this text, I'm looking here at this woman who is currently struggling. I make this observation that she is currently without a husband, and right now it seems she has a debt that is due. Her husband has left her with bills on top of bills, and she only has her 2 sons. Seeing that she has children, she is not in a position to remarry. To some degree, God has already blessed her with what is to come. It is her obligation to make it to the next step. She reminds the prophet that her husband was a God-fearing man, that he worked and that he served. It says nothing of her relationship. And yet I'm trusting and believing, and I am inferring in this one moment that she too, through her husband, had learned to trust and believe in God. Yes. That at that time she knew exactly who to call upon. So the first thing that we are learning as we are going through this text, as we are expounding on this word dignity, is that it's important to have the right kind of people around you.
Yes.
You have to have people who are like-minded. You have to have people who believe like you believe, who trust like you believe, trust like you trust, who know things just like you do. And so as this widow turns to Elisha, she says, my husband was faithful, and right now I'm struggling. Right now I'm uncertain of what my next steps are. They're coming to take my children. I look at this mother and I ask, how will she accomplish this? How will she acquire the money? And the prophet says, simply, how can I help? It pays to have good friends.
Yes.
You can go to people sometimes and you can tell them about your struggle. You can tell them about something that you're going to. And it takes something away from you sometimes to ask people for help.
Yes.
It seems like it would rob you of your dignity to tell someone you are currently hurting, that you are currently without the blessings that are believed that you should have. Yes. You're God-fearing people. Yes. You go to church every Sunday. Yes. You tithe. You work in the community. Why would you be struggling? And so it hurts sometimes. Yes. We lose a bit of ourselves when we feel like we have to ask someone for help. And so when we look here in the text, this widow is not afraid. She knows that this person she's asking is her friend. She knows that as she goes to him, he's not going to put her down in the process. Right. He's not going to point fingers in the process at why it is she's currently in this situation. He doesn't say you had no savings. He doesn't say he didn't leave you an insurance policy.
Come on.
He asks, how can I help?
Come on.
Yes.
And so as we continue to look within this text, be reminded that look around you at the people you have your circle. If you have to ask someone for help and they put you down, they're not there. They're not there for the right reasons. They're not the right person to have in your life. The text continues on, and he asks, how can I help? And he then asks her, what do you have in your house? What do you have in your house? Do you have a loving family? Do you have a real relationship? Are you by yourself? Do you have papers on top of papers stacked up? Or is your house spot? What do you have? Do you have a dog? Do you have a cat? Do you have children? There's something in your house. But the widow, I have nothing, she said. I have nothing. I've looked around. I've looked in the couch covers. I've looked through all the papers. I don't see a policy. I have nothing. She says, I've checked every bank account. Even the ones he didn't know, I didn't know he had. I've checked everything. There's nothing there. And she said, except a little bit of oil. She says, I have nothing. And then she remembers. She remembers that there is something in her home. She remembers that there is some love there. She remembers that there's some joy there. She remembers that she can find peace there. She remembers that I have found something great inside of my home, that there's unity there, that there's a community there, that I am loved in that home. And so I encourage you today to remember what you already have. Sometimes we get caught up in looking at what others have. Sometimes we get caught up in saying how much money someone else has, or how well someone else is doing, or the progress that we see others getting. My brother has commented that others are getting churches before you, and others are, and I had to remind myself of what I have. I had to remind myself of how God has already blessed me, and that I have what I need right now. And when it's my time, I'll have more and more and more. So I had to look within my home. I had to search high. I had to search low. And even when I thought I had nothing, God allowed me to see I did have something. I had a loving husband. I had a beautiful daughter. I may not have everything, but I have something. What do you have? Amen. Look around your home. Look within yourself. God has already blessed you with everything that you need. So if we surround ourselves around the right people, people who will not make us feel bad when we're down, people who will not make us feel like we are lost and that God is lost to us when we are broken and when we might be confused, we might just be able to remember that I've got everything that I need. That everything that I need is within my home, and that as long as God is with me, as long as God is with me, I can make it through this time. I can make it through this period. As I was looking at this, and I was so blessed by the fact that this woman remembered that she had this oil, I began to think about the struggles that so many of our widows today go through. And it's not just our widows that we have neglected. It's women, period, have been neglected. The great Dr. Shabazz preached about it years ago. He said the black woman is the most disrespected. The black woman is the most unprotected. The black woman is the most neglected woman in the world. And so when we hear this, and we can even look at these things, even though these words were spoken over 50 years ago, we can see that that evidence is still true today. We can look at that happened years ago, and it's still happening years and years and years and years. When will we break this cycle? How will we break this cycle? What can we do to break these cycles? I don't know if we're caught up in some strange experiment, but I'm ready for the conclusion. I'm ready a black woman, and yet I have so much pride. And yet I have so much respect for myself. And yet I can walk with my head high because of what is inside of me. Because of what's inside of my home. Because of who I have surrounded myself around. So yes, Dr. Shabazz was correct. We are neglected and disrespected and unprotected. And yet we hold our head high. Yet we walk with pride, and yet our men are gladly having us on their arm because we are beautiful people. And so no matter what we might be faced with, no matter what we might be going through, continue to walk in your dignity and all the things that God has allowed you to have. When I looked further, I saw that this woman was encouraged by the prophet to go to her neighbors. She had already come to someone she thought would help her. And he asked, how can I help? And all he did was give a little bit of advice. Sometimes we hear advice and say they did nothing. Sometimes it takes someone giving us that little push of encouragement to light that fire underneath us and begin to think about what we can do next. He tells her to go ask them for a jar. Ask your neighbors for some jars. Not a few. As many as you can. If I ask each and every single one of you all for a few jars, something that I would have so many. And you are my neighbor, you are my friend, and I'm coming to you, and you say, oh, that's all you need? This one doesn't even have anything, neither does that one. How many vases do we have around our home that have nothing inside of them? How many pots and pans do we have within our home that have nothing inside of them? And so she's busy collecting things. I can see her walking with her sons as they go back and forth from one home to another. And when she gets home, the advice he tells her is to shut the door. Shut the door. And as she closes the door and begins to pour the oil, it flows. The scripture says he anoints my head with oil. And my cup runneth over. And as she has every jar after jar, she's pouring that oil. And she's filling her cup. I don't know about anybody right now. I know that I want God to fill my cup. I want that oil to overflow. I want God's spirit to overflow on my life. I want to feel God's presence with me every single day. I'm going to shut the door. I'm going to keep everything out. I'm going to keep the naysayers. I'm going to keep the people who trying to put me down. I'm going to keep those people that would talk about me, who would disrespect me, who would neglect me, who would say that I am unprotected. I'm going to keep those people who would hurt and harm me out of my house. And as I do that, I'm going to remind myself of everything that I have within my home that God has already blessed me with, that I can't say that I have nothing because I have something great. I'm going to be reminded of all the great people that I have around me, and I'm going to be pouring my cup full of oil, my cup full of blessings, my cup full of love, my cup full of everything that God has promised me. I'm going to reap that harvest that God has promised me. And I'm going to say everything that I want will be restored back in my life because of the relationship, not only that I have with you, and you, but the relationship that I have with God. Oh, I'm reaping the harvest that God promised me. I don't know about you, but if somebody today wants their cup filled, won't you just say, oh, hallelujah, God. Bring it to me, God. I'm ready for my cup, God. Fill it up, God. Thank you, Lord. As we see her cup being filled, it's just going. And she just is in this rhythm. Give me another one. Give me another one. And you can't, it just won't stop. Until her son says, there is no more. And now she's like, what do I do with all of this oil? What do I do with all of my blessings?
Yes.
What do I do with all of my gifts and all of my talents and all of this black pride that I have within me? What do I do with it all?
Yes.
You walk in it, baby. You walk with your head held high. No matter the images that are out there on the news, no matter how sad you may feel at one moment or another, you need to remind yourself that my cup is full. I've got everything I need. I've surrounded myself around the right people, and God is good to me. All I need is right here at home. I'm so grateful to God for this message today.
Oh, yes.
I'm so grateful that God has reminded me and has helped me to remind you that everything you need, you've already got right here at home. Everything you need, God will bless you with it.
Yes.
Surround yourselves around the people that God would have you to have in your life, so that your cup may be filled. I thank you so much, Unity, for your time. May God bless you richly. The doors of the church are open.